I'm going to do a wee painting of the Burn Anne walk in Galston. I was there the other day, and it was so beautiful with all the autumn colours. So I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to give it a go as a wee tutorial that I could put on YouTube or something like that. So here are the colours that I'm using to make this painting. So that's yellow ochre, your white, cadmium yellow, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and cad red. Obviously you don't need to use those exact colours, but red, blue, brown, yellow, white. That's kind of the basis of it. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to take care of the darkest darks first, and we'll do that by mixing some blue and brown together. I'm using, like I said, ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and that is going all over here in the foreground. So I've added a touch more burnt umber and a little bit of white to the blue and brown mix that we had there for the foreground, and I'm going to add that to the land in the background here. It's kind of just making sure that I'm taking care of the shadows straight away, and then we'll build the lighter colours on top of that. So this section in here is the river. There's some light hitting the land at the back, and I'm kind of tempted to just get that in straight away. So that was some cad red and some yellow ochre together. A bit more yellow ochre there, I think. There we go. That'll do. So we're going to get the base colour down for the river. So some ultramarine blue. Kind of looks sort of purple in the photo, so I'm going to add a little bit of red and then lighten that up. A touch of white in this section here in the middle. You don't need to be too careful or precious about applying the paint at this stage. It's just about getting the base colours in. I'm going to go back to my real dark mix, the blue and the brown from earlier, and I'm going to put some trees in the darkest colour. I actually don't usually do it this way. I don't usually put my trees in this dark, but I've got some washes and things that I want to put over them to try and capture that light in the background, some bright greens and oranges and things. So this will just kind of cement the trees in place while I take care of the washes. I'm going to mix up a little wash for the background, kind of a very light green for the trees in the background. Is that going to do the job? I like to try out my colours on a bit of the wall. That looks like it might do the ticket. It's really watered down, this colour, it's not thick paint. So I'm mixing a dark green colour here. There's some lovely big leaves in the foreground, so I'm going to catch the shadows of those leaves first. So some ultramarine blue there, a touch cadmium yellow, what about a wee touch of white. Just try that up there. I think it needs to be a wee tiny bit brighter than that. A bit more cadmium yellow. That'll do. Go with something like that. And these leaves are huge. I actually took the photograph right pretty much on top of them, so they are massive. So I'm going to just give the impression of these guys. Again, it's just, I say it all the time, but it's just scribbling. It's just mark making. Don't want to be too precious. I always say this in fairness, and then I go to a really heavily detailed painting, but I try to keep it loose. Every painting that I do, I try to get a little bit better at doing that, but I like to move the brush around so I'm not just using it on the same kind of angle all the time as well. Just been a bit playful with it. You don't want leaves to be a repetitive shape. Am I happy with that? Am I ever happy with anything that I paint? Not fully. Right, so more leaves on this bit of land here. They are more yellow. Adding more yellow, into that mixture that I made there for the leaves in the foreground. So maybe a touch of yellow ochre. That'll do. I'm still working with the same brush. There's some in the shadow back there. I actually could do with adding a bit more blue to them because I think they're slightly more in shadow. And I've got that right. Move on to the water. So I've got a really worn down flathead brush, so I'm pretty sure that you won't have a brush that looks like that in your set, but I really need to replace my brushes. There's some deep dark shadows in this water, so I'm going to mix up some blue and some brown again. A little bit more blue. The patterns in the water are quite abstract. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if this video is going to show them that well, but we're going to have a bit of a play around with those marks. We'll do the dark ones first, and then we'll go into some light colours. So I'm really just taking the brush for a wee adventure here, just a bit of fun. Right, so that's me put a wee layer down in the water. I'm going to wait till that dries before I go in with the light, and I'm going to do some work on the leaves and the background now. So some ultramarine blue. I'm using a real tiny brush now, a small flathead. Cadmium yellow. I don't want this to be too much darker than what I've already got down there. A wee touch of brown actually, a wee bit burnt umber I think. A wee bit more. Right, let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's what we want. That's what we want there. So, I don't want to totally cover the bright kind of lime green ground that I've got on there. I want to leave spaces so that still shines through. But these are the kind of marks that I'm going to make. Wait till I do a bit of a close up here so that you can see. So this is how we're looking now that I've put all those leaves into the background. Obviously they're not finished. We're going to do another layer on those, but I'm just going to use that colour that we'd mixed, that kind of nice light green, kind of dull yellow. I'm going to pull some of that colour into the foreground. Same brush, just a little one. Not going to overdo it though, just wee spots here and there. Okay, I think that'll do. Right, we'll go back to that water now. I'm using my angled brush again to capture some light in this river. So, a wee bit of ultramarine blue if I can find a space in this palette. There we go. Lots of white. More. There we go. Just pressing really lightly with a brush. Wee bit of scribbling. There's an area of light down here as well. Bit more of a scribble than those horizontal lines I was just pushing in there. There's an area of real rich burnt umber in the water just here. I don't know if you can see it on the photo, just there. It's really beautiful though, so I'm going to try and capture that. I'm using a really small brush, just pure burnt umber. I'm going to pop that in there. So I'm going to bring some lighter shades of green to these foreground leaves. So I think this was the colour I had previously here. I'm just going to mix it again so I've got a bit more of it. So ultramarine blue, cad yellow, some white. That'll be it now. So I'm just going to pick out some areas on the leaves. I'm not going to cover the whole thing because I don't want to take away from the shadows that we put down initially. So just picking out the light sitting into the top of some of these. Right, let's bring some of these beautiful orange autumnal colours to the party. So a bit of burnt umber there, some yellow ochre, touch of red. Using a little brush again, and I just want to pick up some of the leaves that have kind of died and fell to the woodland floor. We've got some just floating on the other side of this river, just beside the burnt umber water that we painted in. I'm kind of using little horizontal lines to push these in, gives you the idea that they're kind of just flat against the surface of the water. I'm also going to use this colour. I'm going to finish off the foreground and things, but I don't want to video the whole thing because it takes forever to upload. But this colour I'm also going to put into the background up here. The top of this land in the background is absolutely carpeted in these beautiful colours, so I'm going to start introducing that up there as well. Let's bring some bright highlights to that river. Just while I'm working with the white, I'm going to bring in some of the sky to, you know, allow some of the sky to peek back through these leaves. I feel like I've just covered it a bit too much. I'm just going to go in now with some more dead leaves on the forest floor. So we'd mixed up that kind of beautiful orange colour earlier. So I'm just going to add to that now. I'm just going to brighten it up a little bit though. So still burnt umber and cadmium red, but I'm going to go real heavy on the yellow ochre. So again, it's not about covering everything that you've done previously. It's just about adding more of a kind of three-dimensional quality to what's already there. It seems to be that the more colours you add to something, the more three-dimensional it becomes. So maybe that's not true, but that's how I feel. Without overdoing it, obviously. So I'm going to add that to the forest floor there. I'm also going to add it to the land up here as well. And I'm going to add it to the little sections down here. So you can see that I've added those little touches of orange all up into the background along the river there, and in the foreground too. And now what I'm doing is I've mixed up some ultramarine blue and yellow ochre. A wee bit more blue there. And I'm going to pick out some leaves, some of the darker leaves over in this section here, just using this small brush. So that same mixture there, I'm just going to take a bit more yellow ochre to it, lighten it up just a little bit. And I'm going to add that to this side over here and pick out some leaves on these trees. It's a bit too dark for me still, so it's a bit more yellow ochre. I've used that to add a bit more detail to leaves in the background there, if you can see that. And what I'm doing now is I'm mixing up this dark green colour, so ultramarine blue, there we go, and some cadmium yellow there together, on top of that colour that we mixed for the leaves. Not that that would make too much of a difference whether you mix it on top of that or not. And I'm bringing some shadows back to the forest floor, but in the distance. I'm leaving this area alone just now. I'm going to mix up some yellow now and add that to the kind of autumn leaf colour that we had from earlier, a bit more than that, and lighten it up with a touch of white, nice and bright, like that. I think that's kind of what we're looking for there. And I'm going to pick out some more leaves in the foreground here. Quite sparingly though, I'm not going to overdo it with this colour at all. I say that and then watch me have an absolute party on here with it. I don't want to overdo it though, I want every kind of spot of yellow to matter. I don't want it to get too lost in the crowd. Really stands out, that wee guy there. He's got some friends down here. So that's me added in all the kind of little yellow leaves, added some up here into the trees in the background, some along the edge of the river there, and as it kind of faded off into the distance, I don't know if you can see those nice little yellow tones everywhere. I actually don't feel like this painting is going to really come to life until we start getting the detail in the trees, I think. But I really do want to leave them to last. I want to make sure that all the leaves are in first. Anyway, let's go back to this foreground down here. There's some gorgeous ferns kicking about in here, and now that I'm onto this smaller brush, I'm going to start picking them out. So I'm going to go for some ultramarine blue. Have we got a space in this palette there? Some ultramarine blue, lots of cad yellow. Go mix that in. I think I want it to be a little bit brighter than that. Let's try some white. That might do the job. Does it need some cerulean blue? Why not? Yes, it did. Obviously, if you don't have these colours, it doesn't matter. I'm just kind of playing around. Like I said, you just need kind of blue, yellow, brown, red and white. Anyway, I'm going to set this palette down again so that I can get right into the nitty gritty of these little ferns. So a beautiful one coming right out of here. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and continue to pick that out for a wee bit. I'm not going to overdo it again. Like, I always say that, but I probably am. Anyway, find out in a second, I guess. So I'm not quite happy that I've lost these beautiful big leaves in the foreground, so I'm going to go and try and pull them back up to the top. And I've got this mixture of ultramarine blue, cad yellow and white, but it's really heavy on the blue more than the yellow. So we'll see if I can pull these leaves back out. Get some nice leaves here, overlapping the river. Right, I think that will do that. We'll maybe get to work on the trees because it's maybe just becoming a bit too busy. It's quite pretty though. I don't know, I go between loving them and absolutely despising them, so who knows. I'm going to work on the darkest trees first, so I'm going to mix up ultramarine blue and brown. I'm going to be a little bit heavier on the brown than the blue. I'm going to start with this tree right in the middle. This one's got the most branches coming off it. It's quite an interesting one. I've just added in the shadows onto the trees, and that'll take care, when I add the colours that kind of lighten them up, that'll take care of the darker bits underneath, so I don't need to worry about shadows now. I just need to work up to the light again, kind of like I did in the foreground there. I'm going to start with this tree here because it's the brightest tree on the canvas, or on the photograph even. So let's mix up a kind of burnt umber blue. I want a kind of warm grey tone, so let's add some white to that. I think it needs a touch more blue, a bit more. I think we'll go with that colour there. We'll see how that serves as vertical patterns on this tree. It actually needs to be a bit lighter than that, so let's, oops, that's maybe a bit too much. Who cares, let's go for it, let's see. Right, we'll try this one. See, this is like, yeah, that's a bit better. I've added a bit more white to that warm grey that we've just mixed up. I'm going to apply that to this tree at the front here. I'm using a smaller brush now though, and just on the left hand side because that's where the light's hitting it. There we go, I've put the first layer of the colour and the pattern on that tree there. And I'm going to do the same with the one next to it. It doesn't have the same beautiful patterns, it's just a flat colour, but it certainly shares this same warm grey tone, so I'm going to just take that down the edge of that there. And we've got the same thing going on this tree over here. It's actually much brighter, but we'll start with this colour. Right, I think that'll do. Some life in those trees. I'm going to mix up some burnt umber and ultramarine blue again. Get that darkest dark, a bit more heavy on the brown and the blue. And I'm going to move that out the way actually so that I can get right up close to the detail in this bit. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush and the colour just so that this flows a little bit better. And I'm going to start adding these branches now. So you're really just taking your brush for a wee walk. I'm going to just switch the video off while I finish that, but I'm going to just focus on this tree here. It's got most of the branches that are coming off it just now, so I'll show you that in a wee second. I've been adding in all these little branches coming off the tree, but I've also been going into the leaves that surround those dark branches and using the same brush just to darken up the leaves that will be kind of in the foreground, the ones that will be not in the foreground, sorry, the ones that will be in front of the light. You know, they're kind of hidden from the leaves in front that will be. Vicky, what are you saying? I'm saying I'm painting some dark leaves. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Losing my words here. That these leaves will be on the underside of like leaves that are getting hit with the light. Okay, let's get some of these trees in on the right hand side. You can see them all kicking about there in that section, so let's get some of them in. So wee bit of burnt umber. Am I going to make them burnt umber or am I going to make them? Yeah, I mean we'll add a touch of blue, but I'm mostly going to go quite heavy on the burnt umber, like that. So a bit of water on my brush. You can see that I'm using just a tiny wee brush again, a tiny flathead. Can't see it because it's loaded with paint, but there you go. Okay, so let's get some trees, right? I prefer to work from the bottom than the top, so I'm going to go against my own kind of, not going to say rules. I fucking hate the word rules. Let's just take a wee walk. It comes in at an angle over here. Comes down. Go. I don't want them upsetting that wee leaf, so we'll bring them back in. And he goes down there somewhere. I'm not going to bring him all the way to the ground, but so I'm going to fill in a few more of those, and then the last thing that I'll do is fix this water, because the water's usually my favourite part of a painting, but I really let myself down there, so we need to sort that out. Just before I go on to the water, actually I forgot that this tree here is covered in moss. You know, it climbs all the way up it, so I'm going to put that in. So I've mixed up a dark green, cadmium blue, that's wrong, ultramarine blue, sorry, and cadmium yellow, and I'm just using that. Now it's over the whole length of the tree, so I'm just scumbling that in again with the same little flat brush that I've been using for quite a while now. I'm down into the smaller brush because we're working on the finer details, so I'm going to add some cadmium yellow, big clump of that, to the colour that I've just mixed up. I'm going to add a little touch of white to that mix though, and just capture the light edges. I'm going to clean that brush though, and I'm going to pull out the warm grey colour again, which should still be over here on my palette, yeah, which was just a ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and then lots of white. So I'm going to just bring that back to the table up here. Right, I think that's enough of trying to avoid working on that water. The water's usually my favourite bit as well, and I'm absolutely dreading that because that looks terrible. So I'm going to see if I can rectify this water. So I'm starting off with going in with just a pure burnt umber. See if that'll bring it to life. I've got a few colours I'm going to work with. I'm going to work with the burnt umber. I'm going to work with the blue that we initially put down, and some white, and see if I can bring this to life. So if I scumble this brown over the lighter areas, I'll get a nice tonal change without having to put in too much effort. It's kind of like what I say all the time. I don't know how long you would need to do art before you could confidently say that you knew what you were doing, because I've done it for about 15 years. Like, seriously, for 15 years, and I still have absolutely no idea. I think I can see that I probably will never know, which I'm okay with. Who wants to know stuff? Who wants to know stuff? I want to be learning forever. Anyway, that didn't bring it to life, so let's try something else. So I'm going to mix the kind of blue, kind of purple colour we used initially, and where's my red paint? Oh, there it's here. On the base colour, to see if that can kind of pull it to life. That's exactly the colour I want right there, but whether or not it's the answer, every time I keep getting covered in the paint for the palette. So let's see. It's a nice colour, but whether it's going to be the colour that saves this water, I don't know. I don't want to have sharp changes in colour. I don't want it to be brown straight to the blue, so I'm trying to get them to kind of meet in the middle and play with each other. We'll see. So I'm going to add some white to that purple mixture that we've just added in to the canvas, and we'll see what this can do. Let's see what this looks like. I think it's safe to say that I can't call this a tutorial anymore, because unless it's for myself, because I feel like I'm only just teaching myself here. Maybe there is rules and I just don't know what they are yet. After almost 2 decades, there's don't know. Just kicking about with some curiosity and wonder and what ifs. And we'll see, isn't it? I'll be honest, I'm feeling happier. I'm feeling happier about this now. This is starting to look a little bit more like it's heading in the direction of where I want it to end up. I blame making this video. I can't say that. I messed up every painting I did yesterday. And I wasn't videoing any of them, so. It's so strange because when I picked this photo to paint, it was the water that drew me to it. It was water that I thought, oh well, I've got that, that's easy. But it was all the plants and the trees that I was really worried about, and then, as always, painting pure shows me up. There's definitely more to get done, isn't there? Let's get some more burnt umber in there. That's what we'll do. Let's get some of this happening. Pull some of this brown into the lilac and let them hang about together. Let them have a wee word with each other. Let them have a wee fight on the canvas. When does the blue, when does the lilac become the brown? When does the brown become the lilac? Let the colours figure it out. Let the colours figure it out. Right, so I've mixed up some brown and blue together again, so the darkest colour, but I've mixed it with the lilac that I used to make this colour here. So I've got a kind of lilac-y grey. Oh, that's maybe far too dark, that. Is it? No, it's alright. It was actually just to put in some, rather than to add ripples to the water, it was more about trying to give the impression of some of these rocks. Right, final touches, hopefully. Tiny little brush, pure white paint. I'm going to move the palette out of the way again. Right. And let's try not mess this up. So the very last thing I'm going to do is bring some light back to the trees. I don't know if Max is telling me somebody's at the doorway. So the very last thing that I'm going to do is add some just pure white to these trees in the background. Not to the trees, sorry, in between the trees. Just to bring some light back through. I've lost a lot of it in the process of adding everything else in, so it's the light that I love the most, so I don't really want to lose that. I don't want to take away too many leaves though, obviously, so it's about creating a nice little balance. something like that. But I'm going to do it all over the place, okay? So I'll be back with you in a second and we'll see how that pans out. I really should have given it a rest with these leaves. Can't believe I'm still going with them, but I just wanted to lighten up some wee sections. But that really is the last thing that I'm going to do. And what I did was I mixed up some ultramarine blue and white, and then a tiny wee spot of cad yellow. But that really is it. I think that will do us. Let's have a wee look and see what we think.